Among the greatest but least known wonders of the world are the caves of Canada's Northwest Territories. Most caves this far north were crushed to smithereens in the last ice age, but tucked away in the Mackenzie Mountains, just below the Arctic Circle, lies the South Nahanni River Valley, a region that mysteriously escaped glacial violence. This area, deep within the Nahanni National Park, is accessible only by a 200-mile floatplane trip from Fort Simpson, a community on the extreme northern edge of civilization as we know it. Cave Glace lies 150 miles downstream from the landing site, requiring 10 days of brutal rafting down the killer South Nahanni River. Dangerous currents, "20-foot standing waves, and sheer cliffs, leaving no escape from the flash floods that constantly threaten. Not only do we need tons of equipment for wilderness survival, but we have to prepare the body for the rigors of an extended whitewater trip just below the Arctic Circle. With care. Alberta's West Edmonton Mall provides a convenient training ground on the route to Yellowknife. From there, a final hop on a 1940 DC-3 brings us to Fort Simpson. After a couple days in Fort Simpson, the floatplane arrives to pick us up. The 3,000 pounds of gear severely strained the capacities of the Twin Otter. It probably won't float. With hardly enough room left for 5 passengers, the plane is barely able to clear the treetops. The plane successfully lands on Rabbit Kettle Lake on the northern edge of the national park. At the landing, we meet 4 other members of our team who had already been canoeing on the river for a week. Immediately, the 9 of us began an exhausting 5-hour portage of 1.5 tons of gear, 1 kilometer to the river.
He said that we were crazy to go on a raft, that a canoe was a lot more fun, and he said you got to go at least 3 weeks.
While at the same time battling Northwest Territories' dreaded state bird. The first cave formation visible to us lies above ground at Rabbit Kettle in the form of a 70-foot tufa mound, Getting to it requires hand-towing a boat across raging river currents. Fed by a relatively warm 65-degree spring, this delicate mountain is formed of calcium carbonate in exactly the same way that rimstone pools are formed in caves. It's topped by a 70-foot deep pool. The first few days on the river were excruciating as we struggled to make progress under the weak current and relentlessly blazing sun that shone for 18 to 20 hours at a time.
Sir, did you know there's a fine for that?
While constantly battling the birds.
Well, it's about midnight here, and we're on the Nahanni River, and we're dying of mosquito bites and hunger. We're having a good time.
Virginia Falls is the most severe obstacle on the Nahanni River, at least for those willing to brave the Class 48 rapids. We chose instead to portage our 1.5 tons of gear down the 1-kilometer trail around the falls, requiring dozens of trips over 3 days.
You having a hard time?
Beyond lay 4 major canyons.
We're moving downstream quicker than you think.
And numerous rapids.
Coming into another rapids here on the Nahanni.
These are nice and smooth.
Yeah! Not right into him though. Okay, watch your course here. Okay, hang in there now. Pull it in.
Be neat if he fell off.
Finally, in the last canyon on our 9th day on the river, we reached a 2,000-foot deep karst canyon pockmarked by caves.
Potential caves.
The Canadian government has lately closed all the caves in the national park. Access is granted only to the most qualified and experienced teams, such as those from the Boston Grotto. But even with our impeccable credentials, we only gained access to some of the lesser caves in the nearby cliffs, not to the most famous, Grotte Valerie, Canada's 28th longest cave at 2 kilometers.
Oh, these are caves. Some kind of hike, it looks like.
After a week and a half on the river, donning caving gear, helmet, and heavy coveralls in 85-degree heat was a welcome relief.
Why are these guys wearing hard hats?
It was a frighteningly arduous ascent up the talus slope to the cave entrance. But the months of planning and days of hardship would soon pay off.
with the dead end up there?
After several hours of climbing, we experienced that first wonderful rush of excitement and discovery on entering the mysterious world of the underground. Cave Glace. An impressive 3,000 centimeters in length, this cave rivals in splendor the entrance crawl to Vermont's Morris Cave.
I should do push-ups on crushed glass.
Wait till you're done before commenting.
400 centimeters from the entrance, the cobble crawl relents. Now at a major junction, with nearly enough headroom to sit up, we turn right and are even further rewarded as we burst into a major borehole. Even the tallest members of our team could almost stand up in this awesome cavern. This trunk passage provides a clear view to the end of the cave at least 600 centimeters away. A good 2 minutes can be spent exploring and photographing this wonder.
Come on. Drop.
At last, as the day wore on, we reluctantly departed. After nearly an hour in the bowels of the earth, the warm sunlight and fragrance of flowers was a refreshing return to reality. But before we could relax, we had to negotiate the terrifying descent back to the river.
I think you can reach across both sides with your body.
At the river, we enjoy the primitive bathing facilities in the warm springs near the campsite. That evening, we celebrate with Camp Gruel, airdropped ice cream, and fresh baked pastries.
Painfully slow progress, mile after mile, battling the wind in a river without a current, heading for the most distant horizon.
Now on flat water with little current, it took 3 more days of exhausting paddling to complete our journey. Finally, Blackstone landing on the Mackenzie River. Just in time to duck the first snowfall of the season. Here we cleaned up our rafts and relaxed in the lodge, waiting for our ride back to Fort Simpson and the long trip home. Our trip leader and master chef, Jim Rotting, Tom Pummer, Kevin Harris, Mike and Heidi Nadiak, Jim Hennessy, Mike and Jan Douglas, and your photographer, Maury Gasser.